Good afternoon, Rory Jennings. How are you?
I'm very well, sir. I am very well indeed. How are you?
Good. You know what, Rory? You look like a man that means business today. You've come in and you're obviously going to deliver a really good radio show.
Yeah, that's
but
me,
you've
mate.
got that. How do you describe that sort of cardigan that you're wearing to our listeners?
What?
Not cardigan, but sort of zip-up jumper. Is that
A three-quarter zip-up?
There we go, a three-quarter zip. I just feel like a man that wears that is a man that's gone out of the house in the morning to get stuff
Do you reckon?
done.
Is this a purposeful look?
Yeah, I think so.
So it feels very
Alex
middle-aged
over
to me.
there,
He couldn't wear
much
one of
younger
these.
than you.
He couldn't have
and
a
he's just
zip-up.
got a jumper on. Like, he's just woke up.
Yeah.
He's a 20-year-old. He's got a jumper on. He's come to work, hasn't he, right? Whereas you... Talk me through your day. I bet you went for an early morning coffee. I bet you did the school run.
I have been quite proactive today.
I can tell. I can tell immediately. And you've shaved as well.
I've done all of the
younger.
above. Although, do you know, you are completely correct. But the motivation for the slight spring in my step today is because I had a slightly indulgent weekend. And therefore, I've started, I played a lot of poker over the weekend. I had a lot of late nights. No, terribly.
Not a good weekend.
Terribly. So I've started the Monday morning with a slight spring in my step, a slight point to prove. I was down the gym early, had a shave, and I've put on without even thinking about it, I've got the slight zip up.
What's the Rory Jennings Monday morning gym routine saying?
I'll just do a class. The only thing I can do these days is a class. I can't take any responsibility for myself. Do you know why? Like I was playing football the other day, and one of my mates was getting really annoyed with someone else on our team because he's bossy. Tells you what to do all the time. Plays the ball into your feet.
He's an organiser.
He tells you, like, turn in, turn out, like, constantly having a go at you.
Is it too much?
And one of my mates was saying that it's really annoying. Like, it drives him mad. He doesn't want to play with him anymore. Like, just doesn't find it interesting or fun at all. And I was like, do you know what? I really like that. Because I feel like I've got so much responsibility in my life that I love the idea of just not having to take any responsibility on the football pitch whatsoever. So I like being told what to do. I like because I have to make so many decisions that I can live with somebody else, kind of steering me a bit.
So that's why you like the classes?
That's why I do the class, because I don't have to take any responsibility. As long as I turn up, it's someone else's responsibility to make sure that I don't get fat.
Yeah, there we go. It's working. You're looking good.
Well,
friend.
I don't know if it's
You're
working.
fresh,
I might have
looking
to have a chat with them actually, because it isn't working. But
something you are though going to have to take responsibility for is the next 2 hours. You're going to have to give us some wonderful insight and opinions on all things football. Yesterday, Rory, England returned to the top tier of the Nations League as the Republic of Ireland were well beaten at Wembley, 5-0 in Lee Carsley's final game as interim manager. Carsley now, of course, hands over to Thomas Tuchel, who's going to officially start on the 1st of January. Carsley wins 5 of his 6 games in charge. A word on Carsley. I mean, he got us promoted. 5 wins from 6. And also, it's perhaps the one thing... Don't shake your head. I mean, he did. I'm just stating facts here. He won 5 of 6 games, and he took us up to the promotion. I'm not wrong, but it's maybe... Rory,
no, you're presenting fact as if it's impressive, though. That's what you're doing. It's clever. It's a clever journalistic strategy.
Seriously?
Well, you present a fact so that nobody can challenge it. But you present it in a way that suggests that it's an achievement. He got us promoted. That. No, you're right. He did get us promoted.
Thank you. Correct.
But celebrating it in a way that suggests it's something.
I'm not saying we're going to say one thing we can maybe not celebrate, but I think something that he does leave that I like is he gave a lot of debuts, didn't he? He gave 8 debuts over the course of. Well, I like the fact that I didn't know too much about Angel Gomez a couple of months ago. And I like the fact that I've seen him play some football over the last couple of weeks, and he looks very good, very comfortable on the ball. I like the fact that we saw Curtis Jones make his international debut. I think as England move forward and we try and sort of solve that midfield conundrum, I really think he's an option that should be used and should be considered in the midfield, because just on Curtis Jones, I think for a long time, who plays next to Declan Rice has been a big debate, right? I think Curtis Jones is almost a 6, an 8 and a 10 all in one midfielder. He can play kind of all any kind of midfield role. So I like the fact that we've seen some new faces. Sure, I appreciate, Rory, in this international break just gone, we had lots of pullouts. But I just feel like with Lee Carsley, loads of people want to just slag him off and criticise him for this and for that. But he had quite a hard job. Just interim charge for 6 games. It was never going to be easy. And I think he's done a decent job, Rory.
Yeah, I don't think he's done a bad job. I think he's done a job. I don't care.
Yeah,
I think that we can confine the Lee Carsley era to the ash heap of history and never talk about it again. It was something that didn't need to happen, probably shouldn't have happened.
Well, it did need to happen, didn't it?
No, it happened because of inadequacy from our FA.
Because the FA didn't have someone in place already.
Yeah, it happened because of a panic situation, a very forgiving situation where they've allowed Thomas Tuchel to take the job totally on his own terms. at the turn of the year. I don't understand it. So they had no choice but to give it to Carsley in order to just
get through to January.
Just get through. I also think that they were considering giving him the job, but he made such a pig's ear of one of his first games.
I don't actually think
I truly believe that was on the card.
Well,
then, but it's the way that it was going, and then they panicked when they saw how poor we were against Greece at Wembley.
I think in the second international break he did, which was October, I think around that time they were well into talking to Thomas Tuchel, and that was around the time that he spoke quite openly about coming down to the 21s, and people were really confused, like, sorry, why on earth he basically just said he doesn't want the job? And I think he knew all along he was never getting it.
I think it was off the back of the Greece. If we'd beaten Greece at Wembley 3-0, I think it would have been a very different story. They would. I mean,
I'm not sure.
The FA was certainly shaping up in order to try and give him the job. It was certainly navigating that way. And if you think about what the FA previously represented
with Southgate, sure,
not only Southgate, but the plan, the bigger plan, the Howard Wilkinson plan, the St George's Park pathway, that was all about giving young English managers an opportunity. And I think that Lee Carsley was very in keeping with that thinking, because what they've done now is they've made a mockery of the entire situation, because they have totally blown up the pathway. They've made the Gareth Southgate years look like a mistake.
Have they blown up the pathway, or have they just was an opportunity presented to them where they could, at this moment in time, get in a proven winner, a Champions League winner, who is going to take charge of the next tournament, potentially too.
But the two things can't align.
I don't think this means that we're never going to see another guy come from the England setup into the next.
No. But the pathway, the whole point of the pathway was that even if you do have an opportunity to appoint Thomas Tuchel, you don't. The methodology behind it and the thought process behind it was very noble. It was, we are going to give young English managers an opportunity. And I think the thinking was, Premier League clubs don't seem to be doing that. Premier League clubs, as a rule, are quite resistant to giving young English managers the opportunity. So the FA were going to step up and give those managers the opportunity. You know, if our own FA doesn't back young English managers, how on earth can we expect our clubs to? So I do think that they've blown up the pathway, and I do think that they've made... Are you
okay with that or not? Like, are you happy with Thomas Tuchel being the manager, or do you think...
No.
Are you one of these that is a disgrace that it's not an English manager from within the setup?
Yeah, I don't think it's correct that it's Thomas Tuchel. It certainly isn't the way that I would have wanted it to go. I don't think it's the correct decision. I think that Thomas Tuchel taking the England job makes a mockery of everything that we've discussed. It also makes a mockery of the 8 years that we wasted on Gareth Southgate. Because if we're going to ignore the pathway, ignore it in 2018 and win the World Cup. Ignore it in 2017 and appoint Jose Mourinho. That's the point. You know, we've persevered for a decade. For what? For what? To just kind of throw it all away now. So no, and no. To be totally frank, it's a moot point now. But just to put my cards on the table, no, I certainly don't think that a German Thomas Tuchel should be England manager. No, I don't. I think it should be an English job.
Okay. Well, it is going to be Thomas Tuchel on the 1st of January. When Thomas Tuchel does come in and looks at what he's got and looks to try and build this England team, if he would have watched the last 6 games when Lee Carsley was the interim manager, is there a player that jumps out that was a real winner in the Lee Carsley short era, if you like, that's sort of really given Thomas Tuchel something to think about? I'm thinking maybe Noni Madueke, someone that I think's done really well over the last couple of weeks. I'm not saying he gets into the best 11, but I think he's someone that certainly now I'd say he's almost a guarantee to in the next England squad based on his performances over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's in the squad. But no, I don't think we've learned anything massively about England. The only thing I would suggest that has come to fruition, but again, this isn't due to Carsley, this is more due to Arne Slot. I do think that Curtis Jones could be a gift for Thomas Tuchel. If you think about what Jones does, and does so easily as well. You know, you watch him play for Liverpool. If you think about his season so far, think about Liverpool's brilliance so far. Curtis Jones is at the epicentre of everything good that's happening at Liverpool. You look at the way that he ran the game against us. You know, when
Chelsea,
he played on Chelsea,
he
ran the game against us, scored the winner. I think that he is a very interesting player at the moment, Curtis Jones, because there are 2 positions for England that seem to be sorted out. You've got the 2 midfield positions, which are Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham, in some form. The third midfielder is very tricky.
Like we saw the Euros, Trent played there, Gallagher played there, Mainu played there. We sort of almost had a bit of everything, didn't we?
Yes.
And never really actually stumbled upon probably the right formula, did we?
No, but I also think that's partly due to the inability of Gareth Southgate.
Sure.
You know, I think the fact that we tried Trent Alexander-Arnold there in the first game in the sort of debut moment for him, and the rationale behind it was, well, he did very well there when we played against Malta. Yeah. You're just like, what are you on about? You know, what are you talking about? It's completely irrelevant how well he does against Malta.
And
like,
also, I
like,
think...
like what? Michael Mifsud? Like, what are we doing?
Who?
Like, it's the only player from Malta that I can even think of.
Oh, is he any good?
Remember Michael Missad played at Coventry?
No,
God,
sorry,
I'm showing my age.
I don't.
Yeah, I'm showing my age. But literally,
I'm 2007. I was 9 then. So I'm using
Michael Missad as an example to demonstrate, like, it doesn't matter how well you do against Malta. In a similar way to, when people are talking about Lee Carsley doing very well against the Republic of Ireland.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you on about? Like, what are we doing?
And also, just on the Trent thing as well, like, I think starting in central midfield is completely different to being a right back that is able to come into midfield and create an extra body in midfield.
Yeah, having the responsibilities. Yeah, of course, having the responsibilities of a central midfielder is very different.
Rory, I have to say you've been very strong on this, because I remember doing a show with you during the Euros and after the Euros, and you've been very strong on Harry Kane and kind of him and where he's been in this England team, and sort of how in some of the big games he's let England down. Lots of people having debates around Harry Kane and this England team moving forward as you enter the new phase, the new era, if you like, with the new manager coming in. Some say, he's Harry Kane. 50 goals last season at Bayern Munich. He's got to lead the line. Some say, is it time to maybe move on and look at a different option up front in terms of Harry Kane? Where are you at in terms of what Thomas Tuchel should do with England's number 9?
Thomas Tuchel needs to start Kane. Look, there is no debate that Harry Kane is the best England striker around, one of the best to have ever played the game. And for the record, anybody that's listened to this show on a regular basis, they will know I love Harry Kane. Like, I've backed him loads on this show. Over the years, I've backed him loads. I do think he let us down in Germany. I do think that his desire to play, his desire to convince the world that he was fit, did us a mischief. But I don't think that we can ever compare Harry Kane to the other England options that are around. They're completely incomparable. Like, Ollie Watkins and Harry Kane barely play the same sport. Like, the disparity between the two in terms of their ability, they're not comparable footballers. Harry Kane is sensational. What we have to do, though, is stop looking at his record, scoring goals against the Republic of Ireland. He needs to do it when it really matters. And I do think that Harry Kane, what should happen is, if Kane isn't playing to his best ability, then he shouldn't be in the team. Nobody has a God-given right to represent England, not even Harry Kane. Harry Kane is head and shoulders above anybody else in that England team. I truly believe that he's the best player in the England team. But if he's not fit and if he's not playing well, we need to stop this desire to play him even when he's off. Like, people say it, people admit it. They go, yeah, but you'd rather have Kane at 70%, wouldn't you? And that is proven to be a fallacy.
And also, I would say as well, given in the Euros, we had a backup striker who was Ollie Watkins.
Two players that were goal, two.
And the other one was Ivan Toney, wasn't it? Who, I know he just come back.
Goals galore on the bench. So there should have been a braver decision from Gareth Southgate. But this is the problem: when you appoint, I don't want to say an inept manager, but when you appoint a manager that isn't cutthroat and isn't a winner, when you appoint somebody because they are a nice guy and because they are almost a politician in the way that they conduct themselves in the role, they're not going to make good managerial decisions. Thomas Tuchel will make those decisions. Yeah, so therefore it's a good appointment, because we're going to have a guy that's going to be much more capable to make the big decisions, the big games that could be the difference between winning It's a good appointment on a footballing level, but I believe that the job is bigger than simply being a footballing level, and I also believe that Eddie Howard had made those strong footballing decisions as well. Sure. Just on that team last night, Lewis Hall, a left back, made his first England start. At Chelsea, did you see lots of him? I know he didn't play too many times for Chelsea, but it was Thomas Tuchel, wasn't it, that gave him his debut at Chelsea. But do you like what you see with Lewis Hall? Yeah, I like him a lot. I do. I just think that what's happening at the moment, and off the back of a very impressive win at Wembley against the Republic of Ireland, people seem to be being like overly convinced by what we saw by both Lee Carsley. Like, It's baffling to me how people can watch England, one of the best England sides ever assembled, in terms of the personnel. Yeah. You think about the money that is swishing around the Premier League, and then we beat the Republic of Ireland, who are going through one of their worst spells, and people go, God, isn't Carsley good? Can we just stop this? It's happening with that back line. Like, yeah, Tino Livramento had a good game, but it's almost irrelevant. Like the Republic of Ireland would probably be comparable to a League One side. Like, they're not. I think you're being generous there. Yeah, fine. No, honestly, do you know what I mean? When people are going, God, Gahey was good, and Lewis Hall deserves to start, and maybe Noni Madueke has eclipsed Saka. I'm just like, what's going on here? I've got to say, well, I don't want to give too much away for our overreactions, but that is going to come up in our overreactions. And even the GOAT Adrian Durham, even he said on talkSPORT last night, he thinks Madueke is pushing Bukayo Saka for a starting place in this England right wing. And by the way, I really like Noni Madueke. I think he's had a really good season. But Bukayo Saka is one of the best right wingers in the world. And again, for the record here, I really rate and love Adrian Durham. On some level, he is my inspiration. On some level, the way that
Do you want to be the next Adrian Durham?
The way that he's conducted himself on the radio over the last 2 decades, I think is exceptional, and I think he is a true icon of radio. I really do. But I think he's massively wrong here. I think he's got. I'm not an articulate enough man to demonstrate quite how wrong I think he is with regard to the Saka versus Madueke debate. I don't think it's a debate. I just don't think that there's even a conversation to be had.
The next time England play football, Rory, is in 6 months' time.
Thank God for that.
I was going to say this international break, especially with the pullouts and stuff, it has felt like a bit, But the next international break is not until March, and this is where Premier League wise, Rory. This is where it gets really interesting, isn't it? Christmas time and the Christmas fixtures coming up, busy schedules.
This is it. If you think about why, there was the dropouts from the England squad, and Harry Kane got very annoyed.
How many of your boys pulled out?
All of them. You could argue that they shouldn't ever do it, and there is certainly legitimacy in that theory. But what I would also say is, you can understand why.
Like when Cole Palmer pulled out, were you really happy?
No, I don't. I wouldn't say I was happy, because I believe that playing and representing your country is an honour that should be cherished. But all I'm saying is I understand it, because the Premier League season is about to become incredibly arduous, incredibly condensed, really, really competitive. And basically, what happens in May will somewhat be determined by what happens over the next 6 weeks.
Oh, for sure.
So I do understand why players who aren't going to get a rest, like there's going to be, I don't know, how many games are Man City going to play in the next 6 weeks?
If you're one of the teams who play in European football, you're pretty much going to be playing 3 games a week now up until the new year.
Exactly. Easily. So I do understand why an England player would consider not going to play in a BTEC competition of the BTEC competition that is the Nations League, to play for a manager who's not going to be there, to play for a manager who's not very good, when the actual manager of the country can't even be bothered to turn up. Like, what's in it for you?
We've just won promotion to the Nations League.
We need to stop. You're try.
You're putting down the Nations League.
I walk out of this studio if you dare try and suggest that promotion from the Nations
League champions. You'll never sing that.
No, I never will. You're correct.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.